When a school-aged child is added to your family, you may find yourself in uncharted territory. Often this looks like IEPs, 504s, new relationships with teachers and administration. Well, today we have a lot of information coming your way. It's our privilege to hear from an expert in education about services, policies, and supports that can help each of our children thrive in school. Our special guest today is the Superintendent for Billings Public Schools, Dr. Erwin Garcia. Dr. Garcia, can you tell me what your connection is to the foster and adoptive community?
So Billings Public Schools is the largest district in the state of Montana, and we have one of the largest population of foster students within the district. Our numbers range from 250 to about 300 students within the foster program. And so my connection is that, of course, I want to make sure that our families are well represented and that we defend the rights of our students and we involve our students and families like everyone else.
Can you tell me just a little bit about your role and what led you to that current position?
Yeah. So I started my career about 20 years ago, and I started as a teacher in a low socioeconomic area with a high population of English language learners in the north area of Houston, district called Magnolia ISD. Then I moved to Houston, largest district in the state of Texas. And I served in that district for about 12 years, about 17 years total. And I developed a passion for students that face challenges, especially related to poverty. Poverty has represents significant challenges for the student population. So think about a kindergartner that comes to the first day of school, and while the teacher is reading that story to engage the students, you immediately see a group of students that somehow has experiences and vocabulary and connections that can allow them to immediately relate to that story. And then on the other hand, you have students that are challenged when it comes to the vocabulary and the ability to make images and understand text. And that creates a gap. And that gap can oftentimes permeate the life of that child forever. And the impact is significant, especially when students are not able to read by third grade. They're not able to master mathematics to be at least on grade level. And that gap, it's seen in middle schools. Many instances, school systems are not able to close that gap that started with socioeconomic challenges. And what happens is dropouts. What happens is students not able to succeed academically, and their total perception of school changes. And, school, I'm no longer smart. I'm not smart. I'm not intelligent enough. I'm the dummy of the class. I don't like school. School is too difficult. I don't want to go to school. And then that changes, unfortunately, perception and affects the pathway of that particular student. So I'm very passionate about closing that gap in the ability that I have as a teacher. I was a teacher for 6 years. I was very passionate about at least making an intentional effort to close that gap. As a principal, I had more resources to support teachers so they could do that, and through coaching, models, resources. And then as a systems leader now in the largest district in the state of Montana, or as an area superintendent in the Houston area, it's from a systemic perspective, building capacity and facilitating conditions for teachers to be successful to close that gap that unfortunately socioeconomics has created in our country.
Can you explain what is an IEP and why might we need that?
Well, an IEP is an individualized education plan or individualized education program. So the IEP really comes out of the IDEA law, and there is a team that it's called different names in different parts of the nation. It could be an admission review and dismissal, or ARD team, or an IEP team that brings the teachers, the specialists, the parents at the same table to review the data once an assessment has been completed, and determine what are the accommodations or possible modifications, depends on the severity of the findings. And then we design, in collaboration, a pathway with those accommodations or modifications for support, right? Speech therapy, it could be dyslexia services, depending on the findings of the evaluation. And again, I remind parents, and this is where advocates and parents have to be the best advocates for their children, especially foster care kids, is you have the right to be at the table, and you have the right to be listened to and to provide your opinion. And by the way, sometimes the committee is not going to agree with the parent. And of course, there are some safeguards that clarify the role and the responsibilities, rights and responsibilities, and what to do when there's not an agreement at the end of the day, right? But I want parents to know that, at least from the systems that I know, the professionals at the table, they really want to help your child. We are to be customer service organizations. And, when I was in Houston, I had 56 schools. My first year, 55 the second year. Here we have about 36 schools. So I know there are leaders that are very customer service oriented. And when they build those relationships, and even if there are mistakes happening, you have that leverage of having built that strong relationship when things don't go well. Someone made a mistake, there was a ball drop, but because you had made that investment in that relationship, you are in a good place. So the opposite of that is you are not customer service oriented, and you see yourself as, you're entitled to your knowledge and wisdom. And the people that are coming, you understand that they're not as informed. And now you underestimate, the parents or the advocates that come in. And that is a mistake. Not extending the hand, just showing the book and say, well, that's not going to be possible. And every single turn, the parents ask a question, and we're always looking for the book. So the book says this, the book says that. Let me give you an example. Hey, I want to go see the classroom. Is that a possibility? And me saying, well, that's not going to happen because we don't do it for anyone else. So it's not going to be possible, right? Can I see the class? Absolutely. Let's schedule some time so you and I can walk the classroom. There are some rules, but we'll do that. So when parents call, you answer. When parents email, you respond. When parents have questions, you answer.
Can you tell me what is the difference between an IEP and a 504? You mentioned what the IEP is, but what's the difference between that and a 504?
So the IEP is really a larger umbrella, and the inception of the IEP comes from IDEA, and the inception of the 504 comes from the civil rights movement. So, and both are legally binding. Both are attached to different laws, and the IEP is really focused on that instruction. It's really focused on the educational process, whereas the 504 can have accommodations outside of the educational process. If I go and play in the park and I come with a broken arm, broken bone, right? And the doctor said, well, you're going to be out. You need a cast for the next 6 months. An IEP could be, 504 could be beneficial to you as a child because, of course, if you are right-handed and your arm has been affected, the parents might want to look for an alternative seating, alternative chair, desk, um, for breaks. So that 504 is intended to address that need, and it might be temporary.
What encouragement, Dr. Garcia, would you give to foster and adoptive families?
Well, I can tell I'm really thankful for you, because it is making a difference in the life of a child that otherwise that wouldn't be a possibility. And I think there's no other greater thing in the world today than making such a great impact. So I'm just very thankful for the work that you do and for making that commitment. I mean, that is really inspirational to me. Actually, my wife and I have discussed the possibility of engaging as foster care parents. But we also understand the responsibilities, and there's a high level of responsibility. But I can say continue to advocate for your child from a position of, again, being prepared with the mindset of collaboration. Even if you hear out there that other notions or perspectives or assumptions about a system, at least give the system an opportunity so you can enter that relationship fresh and give it a try. Because I know it's hard to trust sometimes when we hear stories, but if you come from a position of, I want to give them a chance, I want to know, I want to learn more, I want to be informed, I want to collaborate, and I will document so I know that I'm not creating false expectations. But what was said in that meeting is different. But I just really want to thank you for supporting children. I think there's no other greater task, duty, calling to do than helping the most vulnerable in our community. And I really appreciate what you do for kids every day.
Well, thank you. We so appreciate your time and your expertise. I've really enjoyed visiting with you, and I know our families will really enjoy it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Charity.